The space station floated in the darkness between stars like a metal flower waiting to bloom. They called it the Proving Grounds. For 10,000 years, species from across the galaxy had come here to settle their disputes not with fleets of warships, but with single combat. One fighter from each side. Winner takes all. Stood at the observation window of Earth's small embassy, watching ships arrive from distant worlds. She was 28 years old, not particularly tall, with short black hair and calm eyes that seemed to look through things rather than at them. She had been a military strategist before this. She had studied wars. Now she would fight one. Behind her paced back and forth across the metal floor. He had known since they were children growing up in the same neighborhood inn. Now he served as Earth's diplomatic liaison to the Interstellar Coalition. His job was to talk. Her job was to fight. He was not happy about this arrangement. "You don't have to do this," said for perhaps the 100th time. "We can find another way, negotiate, offer trade agreements, something." Did not turn from the window. They don't want trade, they want the moon, and they want to prove that humans are weak. This was true. 6 months ago, the Empire had claimed a small moon in a system that Earth had been mining for rare minerals. The moon was valuable, but more than that, it was a test. Humanity had only joined the Interstellar Coalition 12 years ago. They were new. They were small, and every species in the galaxy was watching to see if they could be pushed around. The Coalition's ancient law was clear. Any territorial dispute could be settled through champion combat. One fighter, one battle. The winner's species claimed the prize. It was cleaner than war, less death, but only if you could win. "Commander has killed 216 opponents," said. "She has never lost, not once in 40 cycles. She studies every species she fights. She knows their weaknesses, she." "I know," said quietly. "Then why stop packing? Why volunteer? There are stronger fighters, bigger ones, people with military combat experience." Finally turned from the window. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, because they would try to beat her with strength, and they would fail. She walked past him toward the door. "I have footage to review." For the next 3 days did nothing but watch recordings of Commander's fights. She watched them once, then twice, then 100 times. She slowed them down. She froze individual frames. She watched the way moved her feet before a strike. She watched the way eyes tracked her opponents. She watched the way breathed. Brought her food, she barely ate. He brought her reports on physiology. She read them between viewings. He asked her what she was looking for. She did not answer. On the third night, very late, she finally spoke. "She has a pattern," said. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Everyone has a pattern. Thinks she's unpredictable, but she's not. She's actually very consistent. She just moves too fast for most opponents to notice." "What kind of pattern?" asked. Smiled. It was a small smile, tired but real. "I'll tell you after." The opening ceremony took place in the great arena, a massive circular chamber at the heart of the station. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species filled the viewing platforms that rose in tiers toward the distant ceiling. The air hummed with translation devices converting a chaos of languages into understandable speech. Walked out onto the arena floor in Earth's colors, blue and green and white. She looked very small. Around her, representatives from ancient empires and powerful federations watched with curious eyes. Some laughed openly at the sight of her. Then Commander entered. There was nearly 3 meters tall. Her skin was covered in dark green scales that glittered like armor. Her arms ended in hands with claws the length of kitchen knives. Her legs bent backward at the knee like a bird's, built for explosive speed. Her eyes were yellow with slit pupils, and they fixed on with obvious hunger. Walked slowly across the arena, her claws clicking against the floor. She stopped 5 meters from and looked down at her the way a cat looks at a mouse. "So," said, her voice deep and rough. The translation devices carried her words to every corner of the arena. "This is humanity's champion, A small, soft thing. You have no claws, no armor, no venom. Your species is meant for eating, not fighting." Laughter rippled through the crowd. The delegation roared their approval. Said nothing. She simply stood there, hands at her sides, looking up at the massive warrior. Leaned closer, bringing her face near. "Do you have nothing to say, little prey animal? No brave words, no threats?" Met those yellow eyes. "No," she said simply. Sai twitched. She had expected fear, or anger, or foolish bravery. She had not expected nothing. "I will make your death slow," said. "I will make your people watch. And when I am done, I will hang your skull in my trophy hall next to all the other weaklings who thought they could stand against the—" Nodded once. "I understand." Then she smiled. It was not a nervous smile, not a brave smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something that no one else knew. In the stands, gripped the railing hard. He had known his whole life. He had seen that smile before. She had worn it when she was 12 years old, playing strategy games against players twice her age. She had worn it when she graduated top of her class at the military academy. She had worn it every time she was about to do something that seemed impossible. The ceremony ended. The fight would begin tomorrow. That night, returned to her quarters and reviewed footage one more time. She focused on the ends of fights, the killing blows, the moments of victory. And there it was, hidden in plain sight, the thing no one else had noticed. Always finished her fights the same way, the same stance, the same angle, the same position of feet and hands and body. 216 victories, and every single one ended exactly the same. Closed the footage, lay down on her bed, stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she would lose, on purpose. And she would learn everything she needed to win. The arena floor shifted beneath his feet. This was part of the challenge. The proving grounds did not offer a simple flat surface. The floor could change during combat, rising into hills, dropping into valleys, creating obstacles out of nowhere. It tested not just strength but adaptability. Today the floor was configured as a rocky terrain, with jagged stones and uneven ground. For a human, it was difficult. With their bird-like legs and perfect balance, it was nothing. Took her position on one side of the arena. She wore light combat clothing that allowed her to move freely. No weapons, no armor. The rules of champion combat were simple. You used what your species was born with, nothing more. Across from her stretched her massive body. Her scales caught the light, her claws gleamed. She looked relaxed, happy even. She was going to enjoy this. In the viewing stands sat with the rest of Earth's small delegation. His hands were pressed together as if in prayer. Beside him, a woman named prepared her medical equipment. She was Earth's head physician at the station. After this fight would need her help. Everyone knew it. The arbiter of the arena was an ancient being called Elder. His species was neither large nor small, neither predator nor prey. They had survived 10,000 years by being neutral in all things. He raised one thin arm. The dispute between Earth and the Empire over mining rights to the moon designated KV-7 will now be settled through champion combat, he announced. His voice was dry like old paper. The fight continues until one champion yields or dies. Begin. Charged. There was no warning, no moment of tension. One instant she was standing still, the next she was crossing the arena at impossible speed. Her claws reached for like the hands of death. Moved not fast enough. Claw caught her shoulder, spinning her around. Blood flew through the air. The crowd roared. Stumbled over the rocky ground. She barely managed to stay on her feet, was already coming again. Another slash. Dodged, but the claw still grazed her side. More blood. In the stands felt sick. This was exactly what he had feared. The speed difference was too great. The strength difference was impossible. Looked like a child fighting a monster. The battle continued, attacked again and again. She was not trying to end it quickly. She was playing. Each strike was designed to wound but not kill. She wanted the audience to see humanity's weakness. She wanted them to understand that humans were prey. Fought back. She tried to strike its legs, her arms, her body, but her attacks were clumsy. Her movements were uncertain. She seemed terrified, barely thinking, just reacting. Over 20 minutes of fighting, she landed exactly 3 hits, 3 small punches that seemed to do nothing at all. The crowd began to laugh. The delegation chanted its name. Other species pointed at and made jokes in their own languages. Earth's delegation sat in heavy silence, had tears running down her face. Grew bored. She caught with a kick to the stomach that sent the human flying across the arena, crashed into a pile of rocks and did not get up immediately. She lay there, breathing hard, blood covering her face and body. Walked slowly toward her fallen opponent. Her feet crunched against the stones. She reached down and grabbed by the front of her clothing, lifting her into the air. "This is humanity," said to the crowd. "This is what they send against us. This is what they believe can stand against the might of the Empire." She laughed, and the sound echoed through the arena. Weak, soft, pathetic. She raised her other hand, claws extended. The killing blow. "Yield," whispered. Paused. "What?" "I yield." His voice was louder now, broken, defeated. "I yield, you win." Stared at her for a long moment. Then she dropped to the ground like a piece of garbage. "The human yields," Elder announced. "Commander is victorious." The arena exploded with sound. The roared in triumph. Other species cheered or laughed or simply watched with satisfied expressions. Humanity had shown its true nature. Weak, inferior, not worthy of respect. Ran to the medical bay where was already treating wounds. She had broken ribs, deep cuts on her arms and legs, a gash across her forehead that would leave a scar, internal bruising. The damage was severe. "Why?" demanded, his voice cracked. "Why did you volunteer? Why did you let this happen?" Lay on the medical bed, eyes closed. She should have been unconscious from pain, but she was smiling, that same small, knowing smile. "Because now I know," she whispered. "Know what?" She opened her eyes. Despite everything, they were clear, focused, alive. "During the fight," she said softly, "I landed 3 hits. Do you remember?" Shook his head. "They did nothing. They were useless." "They were tests." Took a careful breath. Each word seemed to cost her something. "I hit her left arm to measure her reaction time. I hit her right leg to see how quickly she recovers her balance. I hit her side to test the sensitivity of her nerve clusters." Had stopped working. She was staring at with wide eyes. "You lost on purpose," said. "It was not a question." "I lost on purpose," confirmed. "I needed to see her up close. I needed to feel how she moves. I needed her to believe I was weak and scared and not a threat. And I needed her to finish the fight in her usual way." "Her usual way?" asked. "The same stance she always uses. The same position. The same angle." Closed her eyes again. The smile remained. 216 victories. She never changes her killing position. It's habit. She doesn't even know she does it. But I know. Now I know exactly where she'll be standing when she thinks she's about to win." Stood in silence for a long moment. Then he sat down heavily in a chair. "You're insane," he said. "Maybe," was already drifting toward sleep, "but we're not finished yet." An hour later, a message arrived from the delegation. Commander demanded a rematch in 3 days. She wanted to finish what she had started. She wanted to kill properly, in front of everyone, to prove beyond any doubt that humans were nothing but prey waiting to be eaten. Heard the news when she woke. She simply nodded. "Good," she said. "That's exactly what I was hoping for." Ordered to stay in bed for at least 1 week. Stayed for 6 hours. Then she got up, wrapped her wounds tightly, and walked to the training room. Found her there at midnight, moving slowly through combat stances. Her face was pale from pain. Sweat ran down her forehead, but her movements were precise, careful. She was practicing something, repeating the same motion again and again. "You're going to kill yourself," said from the doorway. "I'm going to win," replied without stopping. A young man appeared behind. His name was, and he was Earth's xenobiology specialist at the station. He was only 24 with glasses and nervous hands, but his mind was brilliant. He studied alien bodies the way poets study words. "I brought the research you asked for," said. He carried a tablet filled with data. Complete physiology, everything we know. Finally stopped moving. She walked over took the tablet and began scrolling through the information. Her eyes moved quickly, absorbing data like water into dry sand. "Tell me about their weak points," she said. Adjusted his glasses. "They are covered in scales that act like natural armor. Their muscles are 3 times denser than human muscles. Their bones are reinforced with natural metals. They have 2 hearts, so even significant damage doesn't slow them down immediately. Honestly, they don't have many weak points." "There's always a weak point," said. "Every species, every creature, nothing is perfect." Nodded slowly. "There is one thing. It's small, almost impossible to hit in combat." He took the tablet back and pulled up a diagram of a body. He pointed to the back of the leg, just behind where the knee bent backward. "Here, a cluster of nerves that controls motor function in the lower body. If struck at the correct angle with enough force, it causes complete paralysis of the legs for approximately 3.7 seconds. 3.7 seconds, repeated. "But it's never been done in combat," added quickly. "The target is too small, the angle is too precise, and moves too fast. She never exposes that part of her body. In 200 fights, not a single opponent has even come close to hitting it." Studied the diagram for a long moment. Then she smiled. "She will expose it," said. "In the rematch, for exactly 1 moment she will expose it." "How do you know?" asked. "Because of how she stands when she's about to kill." Set down the tablet. In her finishing stance, her right leg is slightly forward. Her weight shifts backward. For approximately half a second, that nerve cluster is exposed. I saw it in every one of her fights. I felt it during our battle, and I know exactly when it happens." His eyes went wide behind his glasses. That's a 0.3-second window, maybe less. The strike would have to be perfect. The angle, the force, the timing, everything would have to be exactly right." "Then I have 3 days to make it exactly right," said. "Calculate the precise angle I need. Calculate the exact force required. Give me numbers, I'll do the rest." For the next 3 days, trained without stopping. She barely slept. She barely ate. She practiced one single movement thousands of times. A palm strike. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. Just one motion repeated until her muscles memorized it completely. Came every few hours with updated calculations. The angle needed to be 47 degrees relative to the leg. The force needed to be between 400 and 450 newtons. The strike had to land on a target approximately 3 centimeters wide. Any mistake would mean failure or death. Watch from the doorway, unable to look away. Sometimes would stumble from exhaustion. She would catch herself, stand straight, and continue practicing. The same motion, again and again and again. On the second night, he finally spoke. "You let yourself get beaten half to death for this," he said. His voice was quiet. "For a theory, for a chance that might not work." Paused in her training. She turned to face him. Her eyes were tired but certain. "Humans don't have claws," she said. "We don't have armor or scales or venom. We're not faster than most species. We're not stronger than most species. We're small and soft, just like said." She stepped toward him. "But we have something else. We have patience. We can wait. We can watch. We can learn. And we can recognize patterns that others miss. That's what made us survive on Earth when bigger, stronger animals wanted to eat us. That's what helped us build civilizations while other species relied on their natural weapons." She returned to her training stance. 3 days of practice for one perfect moment. That's the human way. It's always been enough. Had no answer to that. He simply watched as she continued. On the third night, a visitor came to Earth's embassy. Ambassador, Earth's senior diplomatic representative, was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had not believed in this mission from the beginning. She had argued against champion combat. She had wanted to find another way. But now she stood in the training room, watching practice in the dim light. "You've trained that same movement over 15,000 times," said. "I've been counting. Did not stop. I need it to be perfect. And if it's not, if you miss, if you die." Finally paused, she lowered her hands, turned to face the ambassador. "Then humanity learns from my failure," said. "Someone else tries again. Someone else watches the recordings and finds another weakness. We keep trying until we succeed. That's what we do. That's what we've always done." Ambassador studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "I didn't believe in you," she admitted. "I thought this was suicide. I thought you were throwing your life away for pride." And now, his expression shifted. Something like hope appeared in her eyes. "Now I think I might have underestimated what humans can do when they have no choice but to win." She turned and walked toward the door. She stopped at the threshold. "Good luck tomorrow," she said without looking back. "The entire galaxy will be watching." Return to her training. One movement again, again, again. Tomorrow she would face one more time. She would have one chance, one moment, one strike. It would have to be enough. The night before the rematch could not sleep. She walked through the empty corridors of the station until she found an observation deck with a view of the stars. Earth was not visible from here. It was too far away, lost somewhere in the vastness of space. But she knew it was there. She stood at the window for a long time, thinking about home, about the streets of where she had grown up, about her parents who had died when she was young, about the academy where she had learned to fight with her mind instead of her fists, about all the choices that had led her to this moment. Footsteps approached behind her. She did not need to turn around to know who it was. "You should be resting," said. "I could say the same to you." He came to stand beside her at the window. For a while, neither of them spoke. They simply watched the stars together, as they had done many times when they were children, looking up at the night sky and dreaming of what lay beyond. "Are you afraid?" finally asked. "Yes," admitted. "I'm afraid. My hands shake when I think about tomorrow. My heart beats too fast. My mind shows me all the ways this could go wrong." "Then why do it?" Turned to look at him. In the dim light, her face was calm despite her words. "Fear is just information. It tells you what matters. If I wasn't afraid, it would mean I didn't care. But I care very much. About Earth, about our people, about proving that we belong here among the stars." She looked back at the window. "So I accept the fear, I let it exist, and then I do what needs to be done anyway." Was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. She let him. "We've known each other for 20 years, he said. "I've watched you do impossible things again and again. Beat opponents no one thought you could beat. Solve problems no one else could solve. Every time I thought, this is too much. This time she'll fail. And every time you proved me wrong." He squeezed her hand. "I believe in you. I should have said that before. I was too scared to believe. But I do. I believe you'll find a way." Squeezed back, "Thank you." The door opened behind them. Entered carrying his tablet as always. His face was serious. "I finished the final calculations," he said. "The window is smaller than I thought. 0.3 seconds, maybe less. The angle has to be exactly 47 degrees. The force has to be exactly 412 newtons. If you're off by even a little, it won't work." Released hand and walked over too. She looked at the numbers on his tablet, memorized them, nodded. "I understand," she said. "There's no room for error," continued. His voice cracked slightly. "None at all. Everything has to be perfect. and if doesn't stand exactly where you expect. She will, said. She finished every fight the same way. She'll do it again. It's habit. She won't even think about it. But how can you be sure? Smiled. I'm not sure. I'm just prepared. There's a difference. Looked like he wanted to say more, but he stopped. He simply nodded and left the observation deck. Returned to the window, remained beside her. The entire galaxy will be watching tomorrow, he said. 200 species, billions of beings, they all expect you to die. They expect humans to fail. I know. Doesn't that pressure affect you? Considered the question. It's heavy, she admitted. The weight of everyone's expectations, the weight of being humanity's only chance. Sometimes it feels like I can barely breathe. She paused. But pressure is just another form of information. It tells me that this matters, and I already knew that. The door opened again. This time an unexpected figure entered. Elder, the ancient arbiter, moved slowly into the observation deck. His thin body cast strange shadows in the starlight. I hope I am not disturbing you, he said. His voice was dry and ancient. No, said, what brings you here? Walked to the window and stood beside them. For a long moment, he simply looked at the stars. I have been the arbiter of the proving grounds for 300 years, he said. I have watched 10,000 battles. I have seen species rise and fall. I have seen champions who seemed unstoppable cut down by opponents who should have lost. He turned to look at directly. In all that time, I have never seen a species lose on purpose. Your first fight with Commander, I reviewed the recordings. You were studying her. Every movement you made, every hit you took, every attack you attempted, it was all designed to gather information. Said nothing, she simply met his ancient eyes. You are either the bravest creature I have ever encountered, continued, or the most foolish, perhaps both. My people have a saying, replied. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Sometimes you have to fall before you can learn how to rise. Studied her face for a long moment. Then something strange happened. His expression shifted. For the first time in his memory, the arbiter looked uncertain. Tomorrow, said slowly, I believe I will see something that I have never seen before. I do not know what it will be, but I feel it coming, like a storm approaching from far away. He turned and walked toward the door. He paused at the threshold. Good fortune to you, human. Whatever happens, you have already taught me something new. That alone is worth more than most realize. He left, the door closed behind him, and stood in silence for a while longer. The stars continued to burn in the endless darkness. The morning is coming, finally said. You should try to sleep, even a little. Nodded, but she did not move. She continued staring at the stars, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about one moment, one strike, one chance. Everything she had learned, everything she had suffered, everything she had practiced, it all came down to less than 1 second. She closed her eyes, breathed slowly, let her mind become quiet. When morning came, she was ready. The arena filled with representatives from 200 species. They came from every corner of the galaxy. They sat in tiered platforms that rose toward the distant ceiling. The air hummed with excitement and anticipation. Everyone knew what they were here to see. An execution, a demonstration of superiority, a reminder that some species were predators and some were prey. Entered first. She walked slowly across the arena floor, her scales gleaming under the bright lights. She roared for the crowd, and they roared back. She raised her clawed hands in triumph, showing the tokens from her previous kills. 216 victories. Today would be 217. Then entered. She walked in silence. She wore simple combat clothing. She carried no weapons, no armor, no protection. She looked small against the vastness of the arena, small and fragile and human. But her hands were steady, her eyes were calm, her breathing was even. She stopped in the center of the arena and bowed once to her opponent. Laughed, You come back for more, little prey. I thought I broke you already. I thought you understood your place." Said nothing. Smile faded slightly. She expected fear, she expected words. She got neither. "This time I will not stop," growled. "This time I will tear you apart piece by piece. The galaxy will see what happens to species that forget they are food." Simply stood there, waiting, ready. In the stands, gripped the railing until his hands ached. Beside him, his glasses were fogged with nervous sweat. Ambassador sat perfectly still, her face like stone. Elder rose to speak. "The rematch between Earth and the Empire begins now," he announced. "May the worthy prevail." He raised his arm, took a breath, felt her heartbeat slow, let everything else fade away. This was the moment. This was what she had been waiting for. Everything she was, everything humanity could be. It all came down to now. Elder dropped his arm, the signal to begin. Exploded forward. Her powerful legs pushed against the arena floor, launching her massive body across the distance like a missile. Her claws were extended. Her yellow eyes burned with killing intent. She was so fast that most beings in the arena could barely follow her movement. But had seen this before. She had felt this before. She had memorized this exact moment from 216 recordings and one personal experience. Came in exactly as she always did. The same angle, the same speed, the same position of arms and legs. She was a creature of perfect habit and she did not even know it. Did not retreat. She did not block. She did not try to dodge completely. Instead, she moved exactly 4.7 centimeters to the left. Not escaping, repositioning. His claws sliced through the air where his head had been a heartbeat before. But now this momentum was committed. Her body was locked into the familiar killing stance that had ended 216 lives. Her right leg forward, her weight shifting backward. And for exactly 0.3 seconds, the nerve cluster behind her knee was completely exposed. Time seemed to slow. His hand moved. There was no wind-up, no warning, no wasted motion. Just thousands of hours of practice compressed into a single instant. Her palm struck the exact point that it identified. The angle was 47 degrees. The force was 412 newtons. The target was 3 centimeters wide and she hit the center perfectly. His leg stopped working. The mighty champion of the Empire, undefeated in 40 cycles, stumbled. Her perfectly balanced body became unbalanced. She fell forward, her own momentum working against her. 3.7 seconds. That was how long the paralysis would last. It was enough. Moved like water. Before could even understand what had happened was behind her. She wrapped her arm around this thick neck. She found the secondary nerve cluster that had identified in the research. She applied pressure. Not enough to kill, just enough to control. Total time from the start of the fight, 1.8 seconds. Crashed to the ground with attached to her back. The massive warrior struggled, but her legs would not respond. She tried to slash with her claws, but his position made it impossible. She tried to roll, but the pressure on her neck threatened to cut off blood to her brain. The arena was completely silent. 200 species watched in shock. No one moved. No one breathed. No one could believe what they were seeing. Spoke. Her voice was calm but loud enough to carry across the arena. Yield. Struggled harder. She was a champion she had never lost. She could not lose, not to this small, soft creature, not to a human. Tightened her grip slightly. Yield. I do not want to kill you, but I will if I must. Felt the pressure increase on her nerve cluster. She felt her vision beginning to darken around the edges. She felt her body failing to obey her commands. And she understood, finally, that this was not prey she was fighting. This was something else entirely. The word seemed to cause her physical pain. Her voice was rough and broken. I yield. Released her immediately. She stepped back. She bowed once just as she had at the beginning of the fight. The silence continued for 3 more seconds. It felt like forever. Then Elder rose. His ancient voice rang out across the arena. The human is victorious. The territorial dispute is resolved in Earth's favor. The moon-designated KV-7 belongs to humanity. He paused, looked at with those old, wise eyes. Let it be known across the galaxy. This day, humanity has earned its place among the stars. The silence shattered. Some species roared in outrage. They had expected entertainment. They had expected blood. They had expected humanity to fail. Others began to applaud, slowly at first, then louder. Species that had been conquered by the species that understood what it meant to be small and underestimated. Species that recognized something in that they had once had themselves. Walked toward the exit. Her legs were shaking now. The adrenaline was hitting her all at once. Everything she had been holding inside during the fight was trying to come out. Met her at the edge of the arena. He grabbed her and held her tight. He was crying. He was laughing. He was saying words that she could not quite understand through the ringing in her ears. Appeared next. His glasses were completely fogged. He kept saying, "It worked. It worked. I can't believe it worked." Ambassador stood nearby. For the first time since had known her, the old diplomat was smiling. Not a political smile, a real one. "You did it," said. "You actually did it." Nodded, her voice was shaking. "We did it, all of us." Arrived with medical equipment. She was crying too. "Sit down," she ordered. "Let me check you. You're probably running on pure adrenaline right now." Sat, she let examine her. She let hold her hand. She let continue babbling about calculations and angles and nerve clusters. Across the arena, still lay on the ground. Her legs had recovered, but she had not stood up. She remained there, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what had just happened. After a long moment, she turned her head to look at where was sitting. Their eyes met across the distance. Expected to see hatred, rage, the promise of revenge. But that was not what she saw. She saw respect, confusion, and something that might have been fear. Looked away first. Hours later, on the transport ship heading back toward Earth space, sat alone in an observation room. The stars streamed past the window as the ship traveled through the darkness between worlds. Found her there. He sat down beside her without speaking. "How did you know?" he finally asked. "How were you sure it would work?" Did not answer immediately. She watched the stars, thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. "I wasn't sure," she said. "I was prepared, that's different." "What's the difference?" Smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. Being sure means you know what will happen. Being prepared means you've done everything possible to succeed, even if you don't know the outcome. Humans can't be sure of anything. We're too small, too weak, too fragile, but we can always be prepared. She turned to look at him. That's the human way. We don't win because we're stronger. We don't win because we're faster. We don't win because we have natural weapons or armor. We win because we learn, because we adapt, because we refuse to stop trying, because we fall down 7 times and get up 8. Nodded slowly, he understood. "There will be more challenges," he said. "More species who think we're easy prey. More battles we'll have to fight." "I know. Are you ready for that?" Looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were talking about what had happened today. They were spreading the story. They were warning each other. Never underestimate humans. Never assume they'll stay defeated. And never, ever fight one twice. "I'm not ready," admitted, "but I'll prepare. That's all any of us can do." She closed her eyes, let herself rest for the first time in days. The galaxy had learned something today. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was patient. Humanity learned from failure. Humanity got back up. And sometimes, if you gave a human enough time to prepare, they could bring down giants with a single move. The ship continued through the stars, heading home. heading toward whatever came next.